Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have how big is the universe? Okay, so we have our sun, which is a star that is surrounded by, we'll say 9 planets, and that makes up our solar system. Our solar system is located within the Milky Way galaxy, and it is currently believed that there are about 200 other solar systems in our galaxy. That's a lot of planets floating around in our galaxy alone, but that's not it. In our observable universe, the things we can tangibly see, there's about 150 billion other galaxies. And that's just what we can see. That number could technically go on for, well, that's exactly the thing. We don't know how much that number could grow, but it's been theorized that the number is 250 times higher than the 150 billion we can see. That's like an incomprehensible amount, and that's just galaxies. When we take that knowledge and apply it to how many solar systems that would mean, and how many planets that would mean, I can totally understand why we may never know for sure just how big the universe is, but this really does have the ability to make you feel exceptionally small. In our number 9 spot today, we have energetic cosmic rays. Energetic cosmic rays are described as high energy protons and atomic nuclei that move through space at nearly the speed of light. There are some that originate from supernovas, but there are some that originate from outside of our galaxy, and those ones have scientists wondering where they are coming from and what the source of them is. As these cosmic rays flow into our solar system, their paths are bent by the magnetic fields of both the sun and the earth. Upon impact with Earth's atmosphere, these rays produce a shower of secondary particles. Some of these particles do end up reaching Earth, but most are intercepted by either the magnetosphere or the heliosphere. The strongest cosmic rays are extremely powerful, and they can have energies over 100 million times greater than a man-made collider. If you're wondering why you should care about this space mystery, it's because these things have the power to cause our digital systems to crash, and in our ever-increasing digital world, that would cause some major disruptions to our life. This is why we care about how many of their origins remain a complete mystery that has scientists stumped. And also because shouldn't we just know where these things that are bombarding Earth's atmosphere are coming from? In our number 8 spot today, we have what is dark energy? Astronomer Edwin Hubble, whom the Hubble telescope is obviously named after, in the 1920s made the discovery that the universe is not static and in fact is actually expanding. He was studying a supernova when he realized that the universe was not only expanding, but it was expanding at a much higher rate now than it was a long time ago. This discovery was groundbreaking because prior to this, scientists believed that the gravity of matter would end up at least slowing the expansion of the universe, if not causing it to contract. Since this switched up everyone's way of thinking so much, there then began to be the debated topic of dark energy. This is the idea that there is an inexplicable force that is pulling the cosmos apart at speeds that are only increasing. Dark energy is said to make up 73% of the universe, but we still haven't been able to pin it down directly and detect it. Basically what I'm saying is we're pretty sure it's there, but we have no idea what it is. So that's a little terrifying. In our number 7 spot today, we have what is dark matter? Okay, if dark energy and all the mysteries it holds weren't enough, now we've got dark matter to talk about, and I'm sorry, but there's no more answers with this one either. In the 1960s and 1970s, scientists began to hypothesize that there might be more mass in the universe than we can see. After this, an astronomer with the Carnegie Institution of Washington named Vera Rubin was studying the speed of stars at different locations within galaxies. What she found was that there was essentially no difference in the velocity of the stars whether they were closer to the center of the galaxy or whether they were further out. This was an interesting discovery because that defied the most basic laws of physics, right? Like applying what we knew at that point, it would have made more sense for the stars on the outskirts of the galaxy to orbit more slowly than those at the center. In order to explain this and why this was happening, astronomers began discussing the phenomena of dark matter. It can't be seen, but it has a mass, which is how it is able to be detected because it exerts some sort of gravitational pull on regular matter. Dark matter makes up 23% of the universe, and if you remember, dark energy accounts for 73%, so that leaves us with a whopping 4% of matter that we understand better and know more about, which is matter like humans, planets, stars, and that sort of thing. The other 96% of what the universe is made of is one of space's greatest mysteries. In our number 6 spot today we have the Sun. The extra hot outer atmosphere of the Sun is called the corona. It extends thousands of kilometers above the visible surface of the Sun, and it ends up transforming into solar wind that flows throughout our solar system. The corona is usually sitting at a temperature of 500,000 to 6 million degrees Celsius, or 900,000 to 10.8 million degrees Fahrenheit. Apparently for years, scientists have been stumped on how exactly the Sun has the ability to continually reheat the corona. Astronomers have been able to narrow down all of the possibilities to energy beneath the surface and some sort of processes in the Sun's magnetic field, but the exact mechanics of the coronal heating is still highly debated. Just last year in June of 2020, however, scientists did get one step closer to potentially being able to answer this question. There were tiny bursts of energy detected called nanoflares, and this might be what is responsible for the heating of the outer atmosphere. In our number 5 spot today we have the shape of the universe. No, this isn't some Guillermo del Toro knockoff, no one is trying to get with the Oort Cloud, it's just a super valid scientific mystery. Scientists have a lot of theories about the potential shape of the universe, but at this moment the leading one is that it is flat and infinite. Okay, that is both terrifying and cool, and it's also weird to think of the entire universe as having a shape. Here's the thing with this theory though, since the universe has a known beginning and potentially an end point, we can only observe a certain amount of it, so how are we really to know? As NASA has said in the past, all we can truly conclude is that the universe is much larger than the volume we can directly observe. There's something freaky about the people who would be the ones to have the answer, not having the answer. The universe is truly just unfathomable. In our number 4 spot today we have, are there parallel universes? So everything is made up of little tiny particles, right? And there's only so many ways that those particles can be arranged in space and time. Some would call this a finite amount of ways that they could be arranged. And then the universe where all of these particles live is possibly flat and infinite, right? Well, at least, like we just discussed, it's theorized to maybe be. And if this is the case, do you see where I'm going? So if the universe is infinite and the particles that exist in it have a finite amount of ways that they can be arranged, surely means that somewhere out there things would have to start repeating, right? I think at this point you see where I'm going with this. I mean, the deduction is certainly scientific, but it just seems so hard to really wrap my mind around. I guess we need to have the answer to our previous question before we can even begin looking into this one. What if there really is a reality parallel to ours? I hope the other version of me is cool and has like pink hair or something like that. In our number 3 spot today we have what came before the Big Bang. Some of you out there don't like hearing about the Big Bang, and that's okay, but today we are talking about it because it is likely what created the universe. I mean, really, do you have any better, more scientifically accurate theories? Okay, this isn't a fight, so let's get to the question. What happened before the Big Bang? Well, no one knows for sure because no one was around. I mean, almost nothing was around, so what could there have been? Something obviously had to exist for the Big Bang to have occurred at all, but what? Stephen Hawking apparently didn't have time for this question though, because he states that not only did nothing exist, but anything that happened before the universe came into existence lacks observational consequence, so we may as well cut it all out of the theory and say that time began at the Big Bang. I like to ask big questions, but to save my brain from exploding, I might have to agree with the brilliant Mr. Hawking. In our number 2 spot today we have, where did the moon come from? Our moon is our beloved sidekick that really helps us keep everything balanced here on Earth due to the gravitational pull that it has, and while we can't really think of an Earth without the moon, where did it actually come from? I mean, it was 100 million years after the solar system was formed that our moon showed up, but where did it come from? The most accepted theory at the moment is the collision theory, which states that the moon formed during a collision between Earth and another small planet around the size of Mars, and that the debris from the impact collected in orbit around Earth, and boom, our bestie the moon was born. But like I said, this is just the theory that seems the most likely, but it's entirely possible that this isn't true at all, because we simply just don't know for sure. Either way, whatever happened, I'm glad it did, because the moon is tight and it helps us with a bunch of stuff like our axial tilt, which is super important to our lives as we know them. So shout out to the moon. In our number 1 spot today we have quantum entanglement. I honestly spent so much time trying to figure out a Will Smith joke to go with this one, but I just couldn't seem to figure it out, so if you've got any, drop them down in the comments and make me laugh. In reality, quantum entanglement is the phenomenon where two different particles, which are in totally different parts of the universe, can be linked to one another and mirror the behavior and state of the other partner. This is a very interesting phenomenon for a few reasons, part of which is because it breaks some of the fundamental laws of physics. For these particles to be connected from so far away, they need to be sending signals to each other, but these signals need to travel faster than the speed of light, which is not something that was once thought possible, like we already know. Another mystery surrounding this entanglement is that objects are only supposed to be affected by their surroundings, so something happening on the other side of the universe affecting something on this side is certainly just strange. Despite these seeming impossibilities, studies suggest that quantum entanglement really does exist, and although we don't quite understand it, one day it might be very useful to us. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have how did the galaxies form? When you look out into the night sky with a telescope, you'll see a lot of what you think are stars, but many of these points of light are actually galaxies. Galaxies are made up of stars, dust, and dark matter, which are all held together by gravity, but here's the thing. Astronomers aren't exactly sure how our galaxies came to be. After the Big Bang occurred, space was mostly made up of hydrogen and helium, but galaxies as we know them weren't a thing yet. There are of course speculations as to what may have happened, like gravity pulling dust and gas together to form individual stars, and then as those stars were drawn closer together they ended up forming collections that turned into galaxies. Others think the mass of what would one day end up being galaxies was drawn together even before the stars were created. At this point in time it's all theories and no one is quite sure what the real answer is. I mean, at the end of the day we weren't even close to existing yet, so can you blame anyone for not having all of the answers? In our number 9 spot today we have missing stars. It would seem insane to think that a star could just vanish, right? But that's exactly what might be happening. For thousands of years astronomers had accepted the idea that stars were just fixed and unchanging, but that slowly shifted into the realization that stars are physical objects and they go through major changes very slowly, like on a timeline of millions or billions of years. And when it is time for some of the most massive stars in the universe to reach the end of their lives, they go out with a bang. Almost literally. The supernova explosion is spectacular and can sometimes shine for many months and even be seen across hundreds of millions of light years. This brings us to the mystery of some stars that seemingly just vanish in the blink of an eye. According to what we know about stars, that shouldn't be the case, so where are they going? This has led to there being teams of scientists and experts who are examining both current as well as past observations of the sky to see if there is any sort of pattern when it comes to these disappearing stars, as well as to find the answers as to where they have gone. In our number 8 spot today we have the galactic phantom. Our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, is quite honestly pretty massive, but what if I told you there's some sort of hypothetical massive celestial cloud right in the middle of it? The Oort Cloud isn't just some sort of hypothetical object, it is an entire hypothetical expanse of space that we're maybe kind of pretty sure exists. The reason we think this thing exists even though it's invisible is because of comets that follow a bizarre orbit that's in sync with something that seems to be this sort of massive celestial cloud. Everything in our solar system has a bit of a gravitational connection to this cloud, and it's possible that everything is surrounded by it. So what I'm trying to say is that we might all basically be engulfed in this cloud but have absolutely no idea because we can't see it. If the Oort cloud doesn't exist, then what is causing these things? And if it does exist, well, what is it? In our number 7 spot today we have travel at the speed of light. Here's the thing, nothing except for maybe some sort of situation regarding quantum entanglement, which we will get into shortly, can travel faster at the speed of light. It's the fastest thing we know of. So now, here's our question. Will humans ever be able to travel at the speed of light? At the speed of light, someone could travel 299,792,458 meters per second. This means that you could circle the Earth more than 7 times in one single second. That's super fast, and if humans could travel at these speeds, it would mean that we would finally be able to travel outside of our own solar system, which would provide us immeasurable insight into what lies in the universe. In 1947, humans were able to figure out how to travel faster than the speed of sound, re jets, and while this is a much slower speed, speed, it's still a technological advancement that should not be overlooked. As of what we know right now, the answer to this question regarding the speed of light is no, but what if that's just because we don't have the technology now? That doesn't mean we won't ever. In our number 6 spot today, we have how fast is the universe expanding? For quite a few years now, the Hubble Space Telescope has been calculating the speed at which the universe is expanding, because if you didn't know, the universe is constantly expanding. I guess I should have led with that, but we're all on the same page now regardless. So recently the telescope came up with what is now accepted as the most precise measurements we've ever had. That's great and very cool, so where's the mystery? Well, this rate is a huge conflict with other independent and apparently equally as precise measurements in regard to the expansion of the early universe. Why is this an issue? Well, it means we know even less about our universe than we once thought. How terrifying. Apparently the scientific community has been reeling over this discovery because no one is really sure exactly what it means. Great, so we know nothing about the universe or the Marianas Trench. I'm starting to wonder what we do know about.
Number 5. Planet 9. Surprisingly, I'm not talking about Pluto. I think it is an emotional decision as to whether you consider Pluto a planet at this point. It's not really considered a planet, but if you grew up considering it part of the rhyme, then, you do you. Either way, scientists apparently believe that there is another planet yet to be included in our solar system. We just don't know where it is. Like what? Planet 9, or 10 depending how you look at it, is theorized to be an undiscovered planet at the fringes of our solar system. Based on the orbital trajectories of Uranus and Neptune, there are irregularities that make scientists narrow their eyes and make a thinking face like this. Konstantin Batkin, an assistant professor of the planetary science at the California Institute of Tech, believe that there is an object between 5 to 10 times larger than Earth trying to pull things out of whack. Maybe it's a planet, or maybe it's something else, but the search remains ongoing. Maybe one of the Voyagers will find it, or maybe we should call Pluto a planet and stop breaking hearts. Number 3. Where the heck is everybody? Alien theories are alien theories, and who knows if the government is hiding proof that alien life has visited and is currently having coffee in the White House. Bottom line, where the heck is everybody? Our solar system is pretty much empty despite some microbes we were checking out on Venus, pretty cool. But besides that, where is everybody? How the heck am I standing here recording a video for potentially 7 million of you, but I haven't had a conversation with an alien yet? I feel betrayed and lied to. For every grain of sand on every beach on Earth, this is just such an insane fact, there are 100 planets that are capable of sustaining biological life. We can't be the only ones sitting on computers of some kind wondering the same thing, sending out signals, but it's so quiet. The Fermi paradox, coined by Enric Fermi in the 1950s, attempts to explain this, and to date no one has been able to solve it, though it's, again, not really solvable. There are 2 categories. One is that we are the only intelligent life, and 2, that there is just a good reason we haven't been found. One being that they are staying hidden and actually watching us. So that's literally the best we got. That's it. That they're just aliens just somehow like sitting over here. Just like, oh shit, no, don't see me. Like that's what it's like. They're just hiding in a corner and they've been watching us this entire time. Number 1, the giant void. This one blows my mind. If I look up at the sky, it's just insane. Ever go camping, not just in your backyard, but somewhere way up north, away from city lights, and if it's a clear night, you may look up and wonder just how the universe could be so full. But what you may not know is that behind those stars, way out there, is a giant void in space filled with nothing except for dark matter and dark energy. Boote's void has scientists baffled. It's essentially a hole in the universe where galaxies never formed, except for maybe a couple. Around 350 million light years wide and 1 billion light years from Earth, scientists can't seem to unravel why nothing formed there. It's not a black hole, though it is a black hole in space, filled with nothing. Whatever it is, it's causing scientists to reevaluate how the universe started, and we may never really find the answer. One hypothesis is that the void formed when 2 smaller ones collided, but that's about all we have in terms of theories. Number 10, the planet Mercury, not the element. of course. The mystery of Mercury will probably never be solved because we have a lot on our plate at the moment, but also because the mysteries themselves are just boggling. One, it's too close to the sun to get a proper look at it, but the tidbits of information we have been able to capture still lead to more questions. For a while, scientists believed that Mercury's terrain had been burnt up by the sun, which makes sense, but then a spacecraft discovered delicate volatiles like potassium and uranium that should have been destroyed that close to the sun. Their mere presence argued even against the well-established theory that Mercury has a massive metallic core. The Messenger probe completed 4,105 orbits in order to accumulate enough data to understand how Mercury formed, but instead of answers, they just got more questions. It found evidence of volcanic activity, interacting with water, and even ice lurking in polar craters similar to that on our very own moon. How does water survive on a planet that close to the sun? Turns out there's a lot we don't know about this scorching planet, and chances are we will never truly find out. Or maybe we will. Who knows? Nothing's that impossible. Number 9, the Great Attractor. We all know someone who thinks they're the center of the universe. You know, the universe revolves around them, but I ain't talking about you, Karen, okay? The Great Attractor is a mystery that dominates our little corner of the universe. About 200 million light years away, there's a cluster in space that appears to be pulling our galaxy towards it. Its gravitational force is so strong enough to pull our massive galaxy along for the ride wherever the heck it's going at 600 kilometers per second. So what are we waiting for? Point a telescope towards that thing and figure out what it is. But there's just one problem with that. We are in our own way. Our galaxy with all the dust, gas, and stars is sitting right in front of it, like the guy with the big head at the movie theaters that you're just too short to see over. Scientists are skeptical that we will ever find out what it is before dark matter eventually destroys it or we become a supercluster. We don't really know. Number 7, the white holes. Good versus evil. Light versus dark. Love versus hate. Opposites are a natural part of the universe, which is why Einstein said that if black holes exist, then white holes must too. Holes that emit light versus take it away. Thing is, we have never seen them, but just like parallel universes, they should exist, but so far we can't really prove it. Despite lack of physical evidence, logic and mathematical proof continues to support the theory to this day. If we do find one though, what would that mean? Could it mean that the light sucked into black holes does indeed transport to another point in the galaxy? Do they work as gateways? I don't know. Unless we find one, we just gotta wait. Number 6, chicken or the egg? Though in this case I mean black hole or galaxy. Unless we hopped into the TARDIS and flew all the way back to the beginning of the universe, there's no way we will discover just exactly what happened. Even then, I'm pretty sure the Doctor has already crossed too many timelines, but who knows? Scientists are baffled and continue to debate as to whether black holes or galaxies were the first to form at the beginning. Chicken meet egg. Chris Carilli of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in New Mexico does side mostly with black holes, and I quote, "The significant implication that the black holes formed first and then somehow they formed a stellar galaxy around them," unquote. But there are still studies that say different, and it will probably continue to be studied and theorized for the end of time. We have no idea. We're never gonna find out. Someone build a time machine. David Tennant, rescue us! Anyways, or Tom Baker, but he's a bit old now, that's okay.
Coming in at number 5 is the Green Orb. Now Major Gordon Cooper was orbiting the Earth in the Mercury capsule as part of the Mercury missions. However, during the mission he said he witnessed a green orb coming towards him. He quickly called mission control and started the emergency procedures, but the orb then randomly just disappeared. Even a tracking station in Muchie, Australia picked up an object approaching the capsule, so it definitely existed and it was definitely there, yet we have no explanations for this space orb. At number 4 is the flying object. In March of 1991, Russian cosmonaut Musa Manarov filmed a very strange occurrence from the Mir space station. Way behind the station in the distance there seemed to be a weird white reflective object. From what I could tell, it was a vertical spacecraft that was almost reflecting light off of it every few seconds. At one point the reflection light turns a reddish color and then the craft changes from vertical to horizontal and continues moving. The footage I watched came from the archives of the Soviet space authorities, so at least we know that it's legit. Most critics tried to argue the video was simply some space junk, but Musa vehemently disagreed. Filling our number 3 slot is the Millennium Falcon. Now, while watching the ISS NASA live feed back in 2016, Jaden Beeson said he saw a metal spaceship. He said the UFO that he saw seemed similar to the Millennium Falcon found in Star Wars, so he realized he definitely needed to take a screenshot to prove what he was seeing. The metal craft had a blue glow to it and stayed hovering above Earth for about 2 minutes. It's very clear to see it's not a small craft by any means. Either way, Jaden sent the image to NASA but has not gotten any explanation or response back, which makes the whole thing even more suspicious. Are all these crafts just hovering above Earth and then just going away? Why? Please just come in, you guys. We are friends. Friends of ET, friends of extraterrestrials. Now at number 2 are the Dropa Stones in space. Didn't think that one would make a comeback in the video, now did you? Back in 2006, NASA taped some debris floating around the shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-115. The first thing seen is a rectangular object that seems to be in the same orbital path as the Atlantis. The debris were donut-like white objects that were pulsating with light. Now, most people think it wasn't debris at all, and that NASA is just saying that when they full well know it's something else. They told the public that maybe the debris were items that had gotten loose from the shuttle or had accidentally discharged from the bay. The Atlantis flight director said it's common to see bits of debris when astronauts open the payload doors at the start of mission, but it's unusual seeing objects late in the mission as they did in this case. But the debris had an uncannily similar appearance to the Dropa stone-shaped things that were found passing the STS-75 mission as well. The stones were miles wide and could be seen behind a 12-mile tether as it went into space and snapped loose. And finally, at number 1 is Major Vladimir. Now, Major General Vladimir Kovalnyuk was a cosmonaut in the 80s who saw something bizarre during the Seljuk mission. They were moving over South Africa when he saw an oval-shaped object. Initially it flew straight, but then an explosion of golden light happened. A few seconds later, the oval object transformed into 2 golden spheres. After that, Vladimir just saw white smoke and the spheres had just disappeared. He said he tried to take a picture of it, but it exploded just before he could. When he reported to Mission Control, it was all over Soviet headlines, magazines, newspapers, and most people excluded any option of it being extraterrestrial, but it did happen. It has no explanation, and it was seen by not 1 but 2 people, Vladimir and his partner Viktor Savink. Starting us off with number 10 are the Dropa Stones. Now, misleadingly, they aren't stones at all but circular stone discs. The discs dated back around 12,000 years when they were first found in the early 60s, and there was a whopping 716 of them. Each one was around 1 foot in diameter with 2 grooves coming from the hole in the center. They also have tiny hieroglyphic markings inside the grooves that we've never seen before. In 1962, some Oumuamua said he had managed to decipher the message and that it told the story of a spaceship that crashed into the cave they were found in, and that the shape had Dropa people in it who couldn't fix the discs and hence had to adapt to life on Earth. He believed the discs came from space because one glyph in particular said this: the Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. Our men, women, and children hid in the caves 10 times before sunrise. When at last we understood the sign language of the Dropas, we realized that the newcomers had peaceful intentions. The weirdest part is that the discs were reported to have been displayed around many museums in China, but none of them have any traces of the Dropa stones ever being there. Moreover, there's no record of some Oumuamua being a Chinese name or any link to him and the stones outside of China. So on one hand, we don't even know where the discs came from, and on the other, we don't even know who the man is who found them. Coming in at number 9 are the String of Lights. In 2005, Leroy Chiao, a former NASA astronaut, was on a spacewalk when he saw a strange formation of lights pass him. He said as the sun started rising, he looked in the opposite direction and saw a line of 5 lights. They flew by quickly in an echelon formation, with the second light being slightly out of line. He himself had no idea what they were, and he speculated that they were a constellation of satellites or bright lights actually on Earth. One aerospace engineer called James Smith theorized what Leroy saw may have been squid fishing boats off the coast of South America. They use bright lights to attract the squid, and they usually appear on images from weather satellites, so the option is plausible. Either way, to see that in space would have been truly truly something. At number 8 we have the UFO sighting. So back in 2015, NASA was accused of stopping their live feed from the International Space Station just as the UFO came into sight. It's hard to tell in the video, but a tiny grey circular object rises and then disappears in the footage right before the cutoff. I mean, it could also totally not be a UFO, but it's still an unidentified flying object, so make of that what you will. Dr. Brian O'Leary, an ex-NASA astronaut, said there's abundant evidence that we're being contacted and that civilizations have been visiting us for ages. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the 6th person on the moon, said there has been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We aren't alone in the universe, they've been coming here for a long time. These are their words, not mine. Filling our number 7 slot is Oumuamua, or its official name A/2017 UI. In 2017, the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope saw something zoom into our solar system. It's the first object ever that came from outside our solar system. At first they thought it was an asteroid or a comet due to its orbit, but they concluded it was from interstellar space. As soon as they found it, multiple telescopes around the globe focused in on it for 3 whole days. It was a rotating object the size of a football field. Literally, it was 10 times longer than it was wide, and it changed in brightness dramatically. It seemed to be a long cigar-shaped object with a reddish hue that came from millions of years of radiation from cosmic rays, and it spun on its axis every 7.3 hours. Its Hawaiian name Oumuamua means a messenger that reaches out from the distant past, which is pretty fitting if you ask me. Now, astronomers have figured out that the object came from the direction of Vega, which is a star in the Lyra constellation. But given that Oumuamua is traveling at 85,700 miles per hour, it would have taken a long time to travel that distance, and Lyra obviously isn't in the same place it was 300,000 years ago, so we really have no idea where it really originates from. We're trying to track it for as long as possible. It passed Mars and Jupiter's orbit, and it recently just passed Saturn's in January of 2019. It's en route to the Pegasus constellation and to be out of ours for a very long time. Now at number 6 is the music. In May of 1969, the crew of Apollo 10 heard some sort of outer space type music as they passed over the far side of the moon. They had been cut off from contact with Houston, so the 3 of them listened to this alone, and when communication channels reopened, they didn't mention the incident because they were worried the land crew would be concerned about their psychological state. The noise sounds like a low frequency whistling noise. For 1 hour, the astronauts and the recording talk about the weird tune but can come up with no explanation for it. Some say maybe it was an alien orchestra or the sound of a vessel nearby, while radio technicians guess it's probably from signal interference between the lunar modules and the command module's VHF radios. Which probably is the right answer, I'm not gonna lie. Just doesn't sound like an alien orchestra.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the SS Yasim wreck. The SS Yasim was a Bolivian cargo ship that sank on the evening of December 1st, 2003. For a while, no one was quite sure as to why it sank, as well as the fact that no one could find the wreck. This is exactly why it was so surprising when, a few years ago, the Google Maps team located the sunken vessel based on their satellite imaging. The ship was found on its side, perhaps in the same location it initially sank, in Wingate Reef just off of the coast of Sudan. This wreck then became one of the largest visible on Google Earth until quite recently. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Lake of Blood. This is another find that came as someone was scrolling along and looking at all there is to see on Google Maps all the way back in 2007. This is when they noticed a blood-red lake that sat just outside of Sadr City in Iraq. Many people began to speculate what this could be about, including a ton of macabre ideas. There was even a rumor going around that said a local slaughterhouse in the area would sometimes dump their blood into canals, but this seems a little unnecessary and very unlikely. There hasn't yet been an official explanation for what exactly made the water so red, but it's most likely that the red color is due to sewage, pollution, or possibly some sort of water treatment process. I can understand why the startling image would get people's imaginations going, but it is likely a pretty reasonable explanation. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Gobi Desert structure. This is one discovery that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is located in China. The structures are reminiscent of geoglyphs, but are seemingly much more modern and newly created. The speculations of what this structure could be or why it was created went wild, with people saying that they were street maps of American cities or messages either to or from some sort of extraterrestrials. The list of bizarre theories just goes on. While this is still sort of conspiracy sounding, this is likely the most reasonable explanation for what these structures are, and that is that these structures are used to help calibrate China's spy and radar satellites. To be fair, this does make a lot of sense, and I don't have any other ideas for what it could possibly be. In our number 2 spot today we have Leo 1. So, we live on Earth, which is one of the planets in our solar system, and our solar system sits in a galaxy that we call the Milky Way. There are other galaxies out there that are potentially similar to ours, but there are also things called satellite galaxies. So you know how our solar system is a solar system because we are bound to and orbiting around our sun? Well, basically these satellite galaxies are like that, but with bigger galaxies. Like, they orbit around our galaxy. It's a whole thing about gravity and all of that sciencey stuff, but in the end, here in the Milky Way, we have about 50 satellite galaxies that orbit us, and the particular one I want to talk about right now is called Leo 1. We started investigating this specific one because of the fact that researchers realized that it doesn't contain a lot of dark matter. While studying this galaxy, it was found that although it is small, it has a massive black hole at the center of it. Like, it's so big in comparison to the galaxy itself that this black hole is almost as big as the one we have here in the Milky Way, which is unprecedented data. This discovery could lead scientists to redefining what their understanding is of how all galaxies formed. The galaxies are the building blocks of the universe, so this would be immensely interesting and important information, and it could change a lot of what we once believed. In our number 1 spot today we have the missing hiker. This one is a little different from the others on today's list, but it's a super interesting story that involves using satellites, and I had to share it with you. A man by the name of Ben Kuo has a hobby where he enjoys looking at different satellite imagery in order to look at all places all over the world. He has said, quote, "You can look and see what's going on in the world no matter where it is. It's kind of fascinating what you can see." He then went on to describe how it's kind of trivial, but he loves it, and in this case it was more useful than trivial. The case he is referring to took place in April of 2021 when a hiker named Rene Campion got lost in the Angeles National Forest. While lost with little reception and low battery on his phone, Rene was able to send one photo to his roommate, which he sent in hopes to give a clue about his location. The photo showed his legs with a sort of canyon below, and while I look at the photo and go, okay, he's somewhere that has rocks, I guess, people like Ben see this as a stellar clue. Ben said, quote, "Actually, I looked at the picture and I said, I bet I can find where this guy is." Ben used his own knowledge of hiking trails in the area as well as sites like Google Earth and EO Browser in order to zero in on where the missing hiker could be. It took Ben about 20 to 30 minutes to find what he thought was the location of the missing person, and he passed along the info to the search and rescue team. In the end, when the sheriff's department went out to investigate, they found the missing man less than a mile from where Ben suggested he might be. Once found and informed of how they located him, Rene said, quote, "I was like, wow, I didn't realize somebody had a hobby doing stuff like that. I owe him my life and everybody else that was involved in helping." In our number 9 spot today we have the Trementina Base. This is a location that was of course discovered using satellite imaging, and you might be wondering what this base holds that makes it so unsettling. Well, that is because this is the location that belongs to the Scientology affiliated Church of Spiritual Technology. If you are unfamiliar, Scientology is a set of beliefs and practices that were invented by L. Ron Hubbard, and it has been variously defined as a cult. The core belief of this group is that humans are immortal and that our bodies are essentially just a shell to house us. There's also some alien stuff in there I'm not quite so sure about. This group is quite controversial, not only for the beliefs of the group, but because of their illegal activities that also occur, like fraud or spying on the government. There have been numerous superior court judgments which have not only called this group a dangerous cult, but also a manipulative, profit-making business as well. So this base is said to belong to the Church of Spiritual Technology, and they are said to be an entity that was formed to manage the copyright affairs of the Church of Scientology. This base is supposed to provide storage space for an archiving project, which is meant to preserve founder L. Ron Hubbard's writings, films, and recordings for future generations, which is definitely a terrifying thought. It is said that these texts have been engraved on stainless steel tablets that are encased in titanium helium capsules and held underground. Maybe a little overzealous if you ask me. In our number 8 spot today we have Stereo A. The Solar Terrestrial Relations Observatory, or STEREO for short, is a solar observation mission that was first launched in 2006. The mission saw the launch of 2 spacecrafts, Stereo A and B, and they were sent into orbit around the sun. This has caused the spacecraft to pull ahead of and fall behind the Earth, which has given them the opportunity to use their stereoscopic capabilities to get imaging of the sun, as well as phenomena such as coronal mass ejection, which is exactly what we are here to talk about today. In July of 2012, there was a CME, often referred to as a sort of solar superstorm, that tore through Earth's orbit, but luckily, Earth wasn't there. The same couldn't be said, however, for the Stereo A spacecraft, as this storm and the craft collided. If this event had occurred just 1 week prior to when it did, Earth would have been right in the midst of it, however, so we were pretty narrowly missed. The Stereo A spacecraft has been able to remain operational despite this hot encounter. In our number 7 spot today we have the Lost City. In 2011, archaeologist Sarah Parcak used high-resolution and NASA satellites in order to look for subtle differences on the surface of the Earth, and she used this in order to pinpoint the locations of buried ancient pyramids, towns, and ancient tombs in Egypt. This would allow her and her team to find these spots from thousands of miles away so that they could then go and excavate them. While this method led to many amazing discoveries, perhaps the most notable of all is the discovery of a 3,000-year-old Egyptian city. She and her team had found the lost ancient city of Tanis, which lies about 2 hours northeast of Cairo. Through this satellite imaging, she was able to find networks of streets and such that are completely invisible from the ground. The imaging also shows that the city is filled with underground tombs as well. Sarah explains why she enjoys what she does so much, saying, quote, "What's incredible about archaeology is literally every day archaeologists are making headlines by making the most incredible discoveries." Well, Sarah, this is certainly one of them. In our number 6 spot today we have whales. There are quite a few satellites that orbit our Earth, and there has been for years, but as time goes on we find new ways to use the information that they give us. According to an article written on January 20th of this year, there is a new study that is showing how, as satellite imagery improves, it is being used to accurately identify whales that have been stranded on beaches. The article goes on to explain why this is important, saying, quote, "For as long as humans have been monitoring the ocean, the only way we've known about stranded whales was to stumble upon them ourselves. But knowing about stranded whales, including where and when they strand and how many are ashore, is vitally important. Largely due to human causes such as ship strikes, pollution, and entanglement in fishing gear, whale strandings are on the rise. Their occurrence can often signal that something is amiss and hint at a larger ecosystem problem, such as a harmful algal bloom, yet the ground-based networks used to monitor stranded whales are biased towards wealthy, highly populated regions. It is very true that despite their enormous size, many of these creatures that wash up on remote coastlines or in resource-limited nations or in countries experiencing conflict end up going completely unnoticed. In our number 5 spot today we have the BLC-1. As astronomers were searching for the existence of life beyond our planet, they spotted something that piqued their interest. This was a radio signal that has yet to be explained that was coming from the direction of the star that is closest to the Sun, Proxima Centauri. The reason why this specific radio signal was so exciting and promising is because the star has at least 2 planets that orbit it, and one is thought to be temperate and rocky like Earth. The observations in which they picked up these signals took place between April and May of 2019, and they were detected by Breakthrough Listen, which is a decade-long search for alien broadcasts. They were using Australia's Parkes Observatory when they made the discovery. They explained that throughout their research, every now and then, finding something strange is expected, but this detection was more unusual because it was a strange discovery that required them to then begin planning next steps, which does not happen very often. In our number 4 spot today we have the Lorimer Burst. This is a fast radio burst that was detected in 2007, and it was named after the person who spotted it, Duncan Lorimer. Well, Actually, it was discovered when Duncan assigned his student David Narkevic to look through archival data taken in 2001 by the Parkes radio dish in Australia. After analyzing this data, it was found that there was a quote 30 Jansky dispersed burst that occurred on July 24, 2001. This burst was less than 5 milliseconds long, and it was located just 3 degrees from the small Magellanic Cloud. It still isn't quite clear what caused this signal, but it's thought that perhaps it might have been a singular event, such as a supernova. In our number 3 spot today, we have the solar system exit. What we're about to listen to isn't a real-time space recording, but it is an audiograph of the Voyager's plasma wave science observations that spanned several months between 2012 and 2013. The readings are important because this is the time when scientists believe that the Voyager left our solar system's heliopause, making it the first human-made object to leave our solar system. It's a huge step for science and space exploration, but the sounds that accompany it are anything but comforting. I mean, come on. That horror movie style shrieking sound on the way out into deep space isn't exactly what we want to hear. I'm not exactly sure what the source of the sound is, but let's just all hope that it isn't something sinister. In our number 2 spot today, we have the WOW signal. In August of 1977, there was a radio telescope at Ohio State University that detected a strange signal. The radio picked up a pulse of radiation that was super unusual and was coming from somewhere by the constellation of Sagittarius. The signal lasted for 37 seconds, and it has been commonly referred to as the WOW signal because of the fact that astronomers observing it were so shocked at the time that they wrote WOW on the printout from the telescope. This signal was so shocking because it was in a band of radio frequencies that are internationally banned on Earth. There are a multitude of natural sources for radiation in space that would cover a multitude of frequencies, so there are scientists who are skeptical that this could be proof of alien life, but skepticism doesn't mean it should be ruled out. Maybe this signal came from a huge astronomical event, or perhaps intelligent alien life with a very powerful transmitter who are trying to contact us. At the end of the day, the signal was detected in 1977 and we still don't know exactly where it's coming from or why it exists, so who's to say for sure. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Venus signal. For many years we have been trying to figure out just how Earth and Venus turned out to be so different. Venus is Earth's closest neighbor and they're quite similar in size and density, but that's about it, to be truthful. Venus has a thick, toxic atmosphere that is filled with carbon dioxide. There are thick yellow clouds of sulfuric acid that trap heat on the planet, which has caused temperatures that are hot enough to melt lead. It's the hottest planet in our solar system, and it's not even the closest one to the sun. That is all exactly why, during a brief swing by Venus, when NASA's Parker Solar Probe detected a radio signal that was signifying the spacecraft had flown through the planet's upper atmosphere, it was exceptionally interesting. This was the first direct measurement of the atmosphere of Venus in about 30 years, and it showed that it was significantly different from before. A new study published showed that Venus's upper atmosphere undergoes some interesting and confusing changes over a solar cycle, which is the sun's 11-year activity cycle. This could potentially give us clues as to how and why the Earth and Venus are so different. Because of the harsh climate on the planet, spacecrafts have only been able to survive at most for a couple hours there, so there is still so much mystery surrounding what exactly goes on Venus. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have space roar. You would think that space is silent, right? I mean, it's a vacuum, so it should be, but that is not the case. It is said that the entire universe is alive with sound, and there is a thing called space roar. Space roar apparently isn't an everyday sound and is rather these strange radio signals that scientists have detected throughout space. These signals are so loud that they are able to drown out other signals, which can be quite annoying for the scientists who are trying to study and learn. While we know what the sound is, we don't know where it is coming from. Apparently some people believe it was coming from the leftover radiation from early stars, and some others believe it is from the gases swirling around the galaxy in clusters, but at the end of the day, no one is really sure and it remains one noisy mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have light shifts. In 2015, a Penn State astronomer named Jason Wright explained that there were pretty erratic and spontaneous shifts in light that were coming from a star that was newly discovered. This star sits about 1,280 light years away from us on Earth, and these shifts were very similar to as if something was passing in front of our radar view of the star briefly before then passing through. Scientists weren't able to connect this to any exoplanets or anything like that, which we could understand, and this is what led Jason to quite an interesting theory. He stated that it is possible that the shifts are caused by massive objects passing in front of the star in a kind of orbit, like an array of massive satellites or a similar kind of structure. Like the type of thing that would be produced by an intelligent and civilized life form. You see where I'm going. In our number 8 spot today we have the Lone Survivor. This is an unexplained signal that was first detected in 2003 when astronomers were using a massive telescope in order to re-examine 200 different areas of the sky. I say re-examine because these were areas where there was once a signal that was detected coming from them, and they were taking a look back to see if they could detect the same signal again. During this re-examination they found that all of the signals had disappeared, well, all except for one. This signal didn't only stick around, but it got stronger. This signal is coming from between the constellations of Pisces and Aries, and the curious thing about this location is that it resides in a place where there are no known obvious planets or stars. To make things a little more mysterious, there are scientists who believe that the frequency this signal is in is the frequency alien life would be most likely to use if they were trying to contact us. I have no idea what leads them to that theory, but it felt too interesting to exclude. So while there are other possibilities of what these signals are or where they're coming from, it is quite an interesting piece of information and is something that definitely deserves a little more looking into. In our number 7 spot today we have the Milky Way radio burst. On April 28, 2020, 2 radio telescopes detected an intense pulse of radio waves, and they only lasted just a millisecond, but they left some astronomers astonished. The reason for this is because it was the first time a fast radio burst had been detected that close to Earth. The signal was located 30,000 light years away from Earth, which places it in our Milky Way galaxy. It also apparently was extremely difficult to miss these radio waves as well. The Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, or CHIME for short, and the Survey for Transient Astronomical Radio Emission 2, or STARE-2 for short, explained that it was in fact so easy to pick up that CHIME wasn't even looking in its direction, and it was still so easy to detect because it was loud and clear right in their peripheral vision, and STARE-2 also saw it clearly, even though, according to Kiyoshi Masui, assistant professor of physics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, it's only a set of a few radio antennae literally made out of cake pans. Well, it looks like whatever the cause for this signal, something or someone perhaps really wanted us to see it. Or maybe it's just a strange coincidence and is just part of the mysteries of space and our galaxy. In our number 6 spot today we have Saturn's rings. Saturn is well known for its impressive and stunning rings. I mean, they are the most extensive out of all of the planets in our solar system, and while seeing photos and diagrams is lovely, meeting the rings in person might not be so much of a pleasant experience. The rings consist of a ton of particles that range in size from micrometers to meters, and they are mostly made up of water ice, but they have some trace components of rocky material as well. In December of 2016, the Cassini spacecraft, which spent years studying Saturn and its icy moons, flew through one of these impressive rings, and the spacecraft's radio and plasma wave science instrument was able to pick up the sound of what crossing one of these rings sounds like. At first, it's just the regular staticky sound of being close to the planet. But then, as the crossing happens, things get a little louder and a little more rocky. The influx in sound is due to the particles bombarding the craft as it flies through the air. It is incredibly cool to hear this and get a bit of a closer look into what it's like to be near the planet, but it's also just another perfect example of how terrifying and relentless space can really be.
Alright, moving on to number 5 now, we have a rogue planet. Now in 2012, scientists found CFBD-SIR2149. Yeah, I think that might be its nickname. It's about 100 light years away from our own solar system, and it does not orbit any other star. It's just drifting through deepest, darkest space all by itself. It's also massive. They think it's between 4 to 7 times the mass of Jupiter. I think it's kind of scary to picture being on a planet that is just floating through the absolute darkness of outer space. No daytime, just constant night. Although it wasn't the first rogue planet the scientists think they found, it is the closest one to us that we know of. Because of this, they could narrow its age down to between 50 to 120 million years, and they think it has a temperature of about 400 degrees Celsius. Now, it is one of the better known rogue planets, but scientists do think there could be billions of them out there just drifting in the darkness. Alright, coming in at number 4 now, we have planet HD 189733b. Again, I think that might be its nickname. It's about 63 light years away. It looks quite nice, doesn't it? It's got a very nice blue hue to it. Well, that's not a blue ocean you guys are seeing, it's a massive gas giant. It's very hot, only one side of it ever faces its star, and it rains liquid glass sideways at over 7,000 kilometers an hour. Huh? Oh yeah, it rains liquid glass at 7,000 kilometers an hour sideways. So the planet is just 4.6 million kilometers away from its own star, which is very close. In fact, the pull on the planet is so strong that it's tidally locked, which means it cannot turn at all. One side is always facing the star, the other is always darkness. Now this causes very hot winds of 1,000 degrees Celsius to whip from one side to the other, which causes silicate particles there to condense into small drops of glass that rain down, and they're then whipped sideways at over 7,000 kilometers an hour. It's very cool, but I don't think we should move there. I'm quite good here. Alright, at number 3 now, we've got the Great Red Spot. Now look at this image of Jupiter. It's very recognizable, and I'm sure you guys recognize this, the Great Red Spot. But a lot of people don't realize that it's actually a massive storm the size of 3 planet Earths that has been raging for at least a few hundred years. In fact, we aren't really sure how long it's been going at all. It was first observed scientifically in 1879, but there have been reports of it going way back to 1664. Everyone has been pretty amazed by this. Think of the size of our planet and every piece of land and ocean and person in it. The whole thing could fit 3 times into this single storm that has been going on for hundreds of years. It could even be longer, but we just couldn't see it. And for all this time we've been observing it, we still don't really know why it's still there. From what we know about storms here on Earth, they eventually do disappear, but the Great Red Spot seems to be feeding off other tiny storms and getting new energy delivered to it to just keep going and going. Oh, and also scientists are still trying to figure out why it's even red in the first place. Yeah, they don't really know. So next time you guys think that zit on your face is the biggest mystery spot in the universe, don't worry, the Great Red Spot is a lot stranger. Okay, next up at number 2, we have the Supervoid. Now, we've talked a lot about strange things out there in space, but what about strange nothings? Well, in 2015, astronomers announced the discovery of a massive area of the universe, about 1.8 billion light years across, with, well, nothing in it, really. In an area that size, they expected to find about 10,000 galaxies, but they just weren't there, and technically this place shouldn't even exist. Now, although there is some matter there, scientists never expected to find an area so big with so little. And what I find strange as well is that even though this supervoid is mainly just nothing, it is something, just like a hole is a thing. In fact, one scientist described this object of nothingness as possibly the largest individual structure ever identified by humans, and it just adds to the argument that we know nothing. Well, I know nothing, but scientists also know nothing, but at least we know nothing. Alright guys, we've reached the end now, and finally at number 1, we have the sound of the Big Bang. Now in 1964, 2 astronomers called Robert W. Wilson and Arno A. Panzias were picking up a lot of odd buzzing noises coming from the Hold male horn antenna where they were working. It seemed to come from all parts of the sky around them, all day and all night, non-stop. They tried to get rid of it by tuning their instruments and correcting it, and at one point they thought it was being caused by 2 pigeons that had nested in the actual antenna and were pooping everywhere. But after they had cleaned out the poop and tried everything, the noise was still there all the time. Eventually, they realized that they were actually hearing cosmic microwave background radiation. That's the echo of the Big Bang. What they were essentially hearing was the leftover noise from the birth of the actual universe. Light from that event had been travelling across the universe for so long and so far that it had eventually become radio waves that were everywhere. Now, some of the static you see on your TV when you turn it on in between channels is that very same thing. Robert and Arno won a Nobel Prize for confirming the Big Bang Theory, although some people think it could still have been pigeon poop. Maybe. Alright, kicking things off now at number 10, we've got a diamond planet. In 2012, astronomers announced that a planet they had known about for a while, called 55 Canry E, was made out of diamond. Well, at least a third of it was. Scientists were shocked because this was the first rocky planet that wasn't covered in granite and water. They actually think its surface is made up of graphite and diamonds as far as the eye could see. Its radius is almost twice that of Earth, so if scientists are right about this, that's a whole lot of bling bling. And if you want to get your hands on some, it's only about 40 light years away, and with our current technology, that will only take you about 860,000 years to get there. Roughly. I still think there are diamond obsessed people out there who would be totally down for that journey. Alright, moving on to number 9 now, we have tardigrades. In 1773, Johann Goes discovered a microscopic animal called tardigrades. Now, these 1mm creatures are insanely tough. They've been dragged to the highest mountains, the deepest oceans, and every hot and cold climate you can think of, and they just don't die. They refuse to. Oh, and if you try and starve or dehydrate them, well, good luck. They can live for at least 30 years without food or water. Scientists were like, this. What even are these things? Let's take them into space. Surely they can't survive in space, right? So they dehydrated some of them and took them into space in 2007 and exposed them to the vacuum of space and its intense radiation that would kill a human like me or you in about a minute. They did this for about 10 days, and when they took them back to Earth and hydrated them again, they were pretty much fine. They were just okay. The majority of them just woke up and carried on like nothing had happened, and if this discovery wasn't so fascinating, it would be annoying. They're kind of annoyingly tough. Maybe it's both. Maybe they're fascinatingly annoying. Alright, next up at number 8, we have got the WOW signal. Wow. On August 15th, 1977, astronomer Jerry Emmon was monitoring a radio telescope at the SETI project, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So he was basically looking for aliens. After years of signals that didn't seem to be alien at all, everything changed on this day. Jerry noticed on the telescope printout that there was a huge spike of a signal that was unlike anything they had ever seen and stronger than anything they'd ever recorded. It lasted for a full 72 seconds. Jerry was astounded and quickly circled it with a red pen and wrote "WOW" next to it. As news of the signal from space started to spread around the world, it became known as the WOW signal. Everybody went crazy and obviously started talking about aliens right away. They found where the signal came from in space, they located it, an area in the Sagittarius constellation, and they listened again and again and again and again, but nothing. They tried more than 50 times to pick up any signal at all. People around the world have actually been pointing their telescopes to this place in the stars ever since then, but it's just been total silence. Now, some say it was aliens, some say it was a reflection of an Earth-based signal, but for many people, we'll never really know what the WOW signal really was. And you know what? That's still pretty cool. Alright, moving on to number 7 now, let's talk about space alcohol. Now, in 1995, scientists discovered Sagittarius B2, a very distant and very massive cloud of alcohol. Yeah. Billions of litres of the stuff is just floating out there in an area about 1,000 times the size of our own solar system. It's insanely huge. They analysed all the data and found that the cloud contained ethyl formate. That's a substance that gives raspberries their flavour and rum its smell. So essentially this cloud would kind of taste of raspberry and smell like rum, apparently. But before you guys start picturing these huge floating galaxies of raspberry cocktails and Jamaican rum, most of it is not drinkable alcohol. It's made mainly of methanol. And that's the same thing you find in polish and windshield washer fluid. So you don't want to drink that. Scientists think it formed when ethyl alcohol got caught up in the creation of a new star. It boiled and separated into this gas cloud, and they're excited because these complex organic molecules are rare to find in outer space and could be our best bet yet for finding life somewhere out there. But personally I'm excited because yeah, there's kind of a massive raspberry rum space cocktail waiting for me somewhere out there. Okay, at number 6 now we have asteroid rings. Now if I told you to picture something in space with rings around it, you'd probably say Saturn. Uranus also has them, even Jupiter and Neptune have slightly visible ones. But in 2014, out beyond Saturn, scientists found an asteroid known as Chariklo with 2 thin rings around it. This totally shocked astronomers because up until that point they had presumed that only huge things like those planets we mentioned could have rings around them, not tiny little asteroids. It's kind of like presuming that only massive fat guys can be sumo wrestlers and then finding a tiny baby that's wrestling with the best of them. Like whoa, aren't you a tiny bit small for that? In fact, astronomers think that Chariklo got its rings from debris left over after a massive collision and that they might have been formed with the help of a tiny moon. What's going on? Apparently asteroids now have rings around them and they have their own moons apparently, and pretty soon they'll probably have drive-thrus and Facebook and Matthew McConaughey.
In our number 5 spot today we have KIC 8462852. Ah yes, the star with the most memorable name. This star, which has also been referenced as Tabby's star or the WTF star, is an F-type main sequence star which is located in the constellation Cygnus about 1,470 light years away from Earth. This star is of particular importance because of the fact that it shows unusual light shifts, which includes a 22% dimming in brightness. Basically, from our point of view, something continually blocks the star, and it likely isn't a planet because a Jupiter-sized planet would only block about 1% of a star the size of this one. So what could it possibly be? There are a few theories out there surrounding this anomaly, but none are able to fully explain what is happening here. Some believe that it is some sort of uneven ring of dust orbiting the star. Others believe that the star's luminosity fluctuates depending on the efficiency of the heat being transported to its photosphere. These are just 2 of the theories surrounding the star, but there are many more out there, and at this point we just don't know. Hopefully once the James Webb Telescope is launched, however, we will be able to get a more clear picture of what may be happening over there on KIC 8462852. In our number 2 spot today we have how will the universe end? Perhaps a morbid question, but it's a good one. I mean, all good things must come to an end, and that might include our universe itself. But maybe it doesn't. I mean, we don't know. That's the whole point of this video. There are theories, such as the Big Crunch, which suggests that the expansion of the universe, which has been ongoing since the Big Bang, will eventually slow to a stop, and then the universe will give way to the force of gravity, essentially just pulling everything, planets, galaxies, it all into a single dense point until everything is just wiped out. There are other theories out there, such as the Big Freeze, the Big Bounce, or the Big Rip, which perhaps sounds the most terrifying of them all, although I'm not particularly interested in any of these options so far. The good news is, this is all billions and billions of years away, so we won't be around to find out regardless. But when it does happen, it'll be a pretty spectacular event. In our number 1 spot today we have, where is everybody? Perhaps one of the biggest space mysteries is, are we alone in the universe? Are we the only intelligent life that exists? Where the heck is everyone else? We can all hypothesize and make educated guesses, but at the end of the day, no one really knows, because to know, you have to have proof and evidence. There are many theories as to why we haven't found any extraterrestrial friends yet, and they range from the belief that we are the only intelligent life in the universe, to the belief that we are a nursery planet right now that is protected from other advanced civilizations so as to not disrupt our development. I kinda like that idea. Imagine we're just currently being taken care of by our sweet alien next door neighbors. That's a weirdly comforting thought. Despite all these theories, at the end of the day, we don't know where aliens are or if they exist at all. A Pennsylvania State University team that was being led by Dr. Jason Wright made an astonishing point, however, when they said that there is no mystery. We have searched only a fraction of the galaxy, equivalent to the water in a hot tub compared to all of Earth's oceans. This is certainly something to consider. As Douglas Adams put it, space is big, you just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is.